RSVP, Professor A.D.N. Vajpayee ji, Secretary, Dr. Sheila Rai ji, Dr. Amarjiva Lochan ji, each and every member, executive member, and all the participants. In fact, I feel myself privileged to get an opportunity to introduce one of the most illustrious scholars of India, Dr. Shatabdhani R. Ganeshji. There is lot of noise. Can you unmute others?
I'm doing that.
Yeah. Can I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Today, I feel myself privileged to get an opportunity to introduce one of the most illustrious scholars of India, Dr. Shatabdhani R. Ganeshji. And we are indeed very grateful to Professor Krishna Bhattaji that he could provide us with such an opportunity. He has already been, Dr. Shatabdhani R. Ganeshji has already been introduced in previous lectures, and each one of us is mesmerized to listen to his brilliant lectures, full of profundity, depth, insight, originality, and his command in different disciplines of knowledge and in different languages. Very rarely Mother India comes across such a versatile genius. One is unable even to blink his eyes when one watches his performances of Avdhana, in which he composes extempore solutions in metrical verse to problems posed in parallel by the Pritchikas. Performance exhibits the performer's poetic skill, creativity, memory, concentration, scholarship, and wit. Probably this has not been said earlier. It is very astonishing. In fact, how astonishing it is that he is an expert in both the variants, the Ashtavadhanas and Shatavadhanas. When he started performing Avdhana in Kannada, there was no living tradition in Kannada. It existed only during the period of Bellave Narhari Shastri from 1933 to 36. Not only this, he can perform Avdhanas using 8 languages, including Sanskrit, Kannada, and Telugu. More than this, he is credited with introducing Chitra Kavya into Avdhana, which was previously considered impossible to do it in an Avdhana. He has given more than 20 Avdhana performances in American and European countries. He has to his credit 22 literary works, 15 works in Sanskrit and in so many other languages. He is a recipient of 8 most coveted and prestigious awards. It is the most difficult task for me in my lifetime to introduce such a scholar in a few minutes' time. We feel very humble in front of such a tall figure and personality. I have been listening to him very attentively in the past few discourses. His understanding of India's intellectual tradition is so enlightening and such an eye-opener that one feels like sitting under his feet and seek the knowledge which can liberate oneself in the true sense of the term. He is a tapasvi and manasvi also. After listening to him, I started comparing Indian thought with the Western thought. And what came to my mind, I would like to share with you only in 1 or 2 minutes, because I don't want to stand between you and my audience, between him and my audience. The modern Western anthropology, to my mind, leads to alienation, whereas the Indian worldview leads to fulfillment. The Western ontology believes in naturalism, whereas the Indian ontology believes in transcendence. The Western epistemology endorses empiricism, whereas Indian epistemology believes in intuitive discernment. Western motivation is control, whereas Indian motivation is participation. Thus, where Western worldview leads to narrow parochialism and to the fragmentation into several insulated systems of thought, the Indian or India's intellectual tradition leads us to real mukti, to real liberation. The need of the hour is to look into the riches of Indian worldview and its concomitant philosophy, culture, and thought. Professor Shatabdhani ji has given us much insight to look into that aspect of India's intellectual tradition. And not only that, he has given us the name of so many books. I think the Rashtriya Vigyan Samaj Vigyan Parishad, we all should go and read those books in much depth. So, Shatabdhani ji, Ganesh ji, I can only say that you have mesmerized me and mesmerized each one of us by your talk, by your knowledge, and by your versatile genius. I feel myself privileged to get an opportunity by the members of the RSVP to introduce you. Introducing a person like you is a great, great privilege. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Professor Chandrakala ji.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot for
Shatabdhani
all
ji.
your kind words. Dhanyavad. Atman Dhanyam Manye. Namaskar. Good evening to all of you. Already Bajpayee ji has sent few questions, and so let me read those questions and try to answer them as far as possible. Amarjit, it is someone in social sciences, if someone in social sciences wants to theorize the past practices of India, how would he or she develop that narrative? Yes, that's why I presented in the 6 lectures, informal talks, where how our social sciences, they can be developed on our own basis. For that basic thing, well, I have to recapitulate all that I have told in brief. First, we have to identify that ours is not bookish tradition. Ours is not a tradition that is dependent entirely on a holy book and a prophet. It is dependent on anubhava, universal experience. And that's why Vedanta is the most important thing. But for Vedanta, none can have any basis and any hold on any of the learnings. And that's why I again and again urge one and all to see to it that the real intent of the Vedanta is grasped, and to say I have given works also. Unless one understands Avasthatraya Mimamsa as per the Upanishads, it will not be possible for a person to transcend the books. It is limiting ourselves to book is one thing, discarding books is something else. Both have limited view, but transcending them is very, very important. And that I told at the very beginning of this lecture series, and I request you to refer to that. And then going to the sources, I told the real society lies in our kavya and not in our shastras, because much of our shastras are wishful thoughts, at least, especially the smritis. In the smritis, what society we see, 80% of the society is a wishful thought. But the real society we see in a work like Mrichakatikam. Since 12 days I was delivering talks on Mrichakatikam in the evening, and now I am joining after concluding those lectures today. Such a work, or the Shukumar Charita, or Kuttani Matam, or Samayamatrika Kshemendra, such works, they throw more light, or even the works of Kalidasa. I have told all these in brief. I request once again to go to that, and then come to Dharma Shastra, and then come to Smriti, then come to Itihasa, so that the theory and practice are clubbed together, then we get a holistic picture, three-dimensionally rounded figures we get. That is what we need. And also, we have to have an open-mindedness, and that comes only by the approach of Vedanta and knowing the ground reality that happens by looking into the kavyas. And of course, we should have the inputs from history, inscriptional evidences also, Abhilekha. Such study is also needed. And above all, we should try to apply things properly. And that needs a fine and facile mind. And that can only be achieved by constant rumination with these. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, as Sri Krishna says. That is what we need. Then, second one, is everything good in Indian culture and history? I never said that everything is good. And at the same time, there are two extremes. One group says everything was good, everything is good, and the other says everything is bad. But I am not going by the dictum Ramaya Susti, Ravanaya Susti. It is not hushing up things and coming to a blind compromise. No. Objectively, I am saying there are few bad things, there are few mean things, there are few average things, but much of our tradition, much of our heritage has very good things. For the simplest reason, the prosperity of the society of that world, when we compared with the other worlds, when we compared with the other continents, other countries, other nations, our nation, our country, our heritage was certainly very good, was certainly rich in all respects. That itself is good and true. That's why I would request you to go to popular works and simple works like The Ocean Churn by Sanjeev Sanyal. There he shows how the Indian Ocean, Hindu Mahasagara, became the melting pot, and everyone wanted to have control over that. Why? And the name is also very significant, Indian Ocean. It's not anything else. Because already India had a control over that, and India was so influential in that regard, in that way. And every person from every nook and corner wanted to have a sea route or wanted to have a land route and connection to India. The whole of the Eastern world, Western world was having that. And even in the Eastern world, every country wanted to come and learn from India, whether it is China or Indonesia or whatsoever. And in that sense, we can know why it happens. All roads lead to Rome. That's the well-known proverb in English, and that's why not everything was good in India, but most of the things were good in India. Till what time? Till the invasion of Islam, till the invasion of Christianity, up to the classical age, end of the classical age. By 8th, 9th century, it ended. And later, what we find here and there, for example, the Chalukyas of Kalyan, or the Rashtrakutas of Manyakheta, or even the Vijayanagar kings, they had golden age, but it was temporary and it had its own problems that history will answer. And then from Purva Bhattji, what are the essential elements from Dharma Shastra that our Indian constitution should imbibe? Very good question. Samanya Dharma, that is very, very important. All that human rights we have much better in Samanya Dharma. And also the classification of Dharma, Samanya, Vishesha. And in Vishesha, so many other dharmas are added. And above all, Astikya is very, very important. In emergency period, in that dark age, the word secularism was added, and that too in a misconstrued way, in a very badly contrived way. And so, That is dharmic society. Dharmic, instead of secular, we have to add the word dharmic. Sorry. And the other thing is Samanya Dharma, and also on the basis of which are the things our tradition has reigned, our tradition has enlivened, and that aspect has to be perpetuated. For that, we have to inculcate our philosophies, our darshanas, our itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and our national poet Kalidasa. These are very important features that has to be added. Vyasa, Valmiki, Kalidasa, and all the systems of philosophy, both uh, the Astika and Nastika, so-called. There is nothing like Astika and Nastika in conclusion, in reality. Because those who believe in an Atma, those who believe a Sadgati for Atma, they are all Astikas. And these are the features our constitution should imbibe. It is so unfortunate thing that great personality like Bharat Ratna Panduranga Vaman Kane, the famed author of History of Dharma Shastra, was not in the constitution drafting committee. You see, he who drank the ocean of all constitutions of the world, all constitutions of all nations, and also became an embodiment of all the Indian tradition in the form of Dharma Shastra, which extended over 5,000 years. He was not in the drafting committee of our constitution. Many times I've asked, even Supreme Court Chief Justices like our E.S. Venkatramaya from India had asked, why in our constitution, our smritis and our Dharma Shastras and heritage was not consulted? Though in the minutes of the constitution reviewing committee, we do find many scholars, but their opinions were not properly incorporated. That many of my advocate friends and jury friends have told, and that's why I rely upon their words. And even when we are having a study circle of Dharma Shastra, went for 3 years continuously, from that I gather this input. And that's why this aspect has to be taken care of in the constitution. Then how would you define Nyaya and Dharma? There is no difference between Nyaya and Dharma. Both are same. Nyaya is justice, but Dharma is much more bigger. How? Dharma is sustenance, dharana dharma. Nyaya, niti, ni ayate, that is yade. Dharma is the vast landscape, and Nyaya is a path in that. Even at times we may deviate from Nyaya, but we would not have deviated from Dharma. This is how Bhagavan Shri Krishna vanquished the Kauravas. This is how Rama killed Vali. This is how Chanakya derooted Navanandas. And this is how Shivaji established empire. And hence, this difference should be noted. What is the relationship between these two? Ashtraya, Ashtrayi Bhava, in Sanskrit we say. Dharma is the basis, and Nyaya is the dependent on that. Dharma is the container, and Nyaya is the contained. And that's why, even in the Supreme Court, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita is what we see. And unfortunately, in Indian judiciary, this bigger view of Dharma is often ignored. Though there are brilliant cases here and there, unfortunately, I have come to know about that. So many of our judges are unaware of P.V. Kane's History of Dharma Shastra. They don't even study thoroughly the 2-volume work, Legal and Constitutional History of India by Dr. M. Ramajo S.G. Ramajo S.G. is a revered uncle of our Professor P.V.K.G. P.V. Krishna Bhadji's uncle is Sri Ramajo S.G. was former Chief Justice of Haryana and was also governor to 2 states, including Bihar. And he is an eminent person in legal and constitutional issues, and he was a very honest advocate also. Such a person has written 2 volumes. In the first volume is the most voluminous. And in the first volume, we have complete history, and I request the interested people to go through that thoroughly, because there you get a lot of parallels between the modern legality and also the ancient Indian system, and the parallels are brought out, and even the upper hand of our tradition is also evidentially brought out there. Then the third question, according to you, what is the difference between Shiva and Vishnu? Is there a concept of active and latent force associated with them? I am unable to understand the second half, but the first half is one and the same. Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave, we say that. It is one example I shall give. Our tradition is very, very broad and meaningful, because our tradition long ago understood that people want different names and different forms, because basically the world is plural in nature. The nature of world itself is plurality. And so oneness or identity of oneness or non-duality is in the spirit behind the world. It is the spirit behind the world that is one, and the expression of that, the world, is in the myriad forms. And that's why we like different things. The same wheat flour, we make rotis, we make sukha rotis, we make puris, we make chapatis, we make parathas, and we make so many other things. Even biscuits are produced. All this because of different names and forms. So is that. One example I shall give. Shiva is supposed to take care of Laya. Laya is tamas kritya, dark in color. But the complexion of Shiva, according to our Shastra, is Shuddha Spatika Sankasha, pristine pure white, fair in color. And Vishnu is Sattva-murti, who takes care of sustenance, which is Sattva, represented by white color, and Vishnu is dark, Meghishyama. It means the act of Shiva is dark, but Shiva is fair. Act of Vishnu is fair, but his complexion is dark. And Vishnu is in Yoga Nidra, inwardly vigilant, and externally he is sleeping. Shiva externally dancing and inwardly in complete contemplation yoga. In that way, the oneness, absolute oneness, has been shown, and hence I think this question is a beautiful suggestion how we have to look into our Shastra. We should not jump to the conclusion that as Vishnu is dark in color, he is South Indian, Dravidian, and belonging to Negroid race, and Shiva is fair in color, and that's why he belongs to Caucasian race. No. And at the same time, Shiva is represented as a hunter. Shiva is in the hilly region, and Vishnu is well clad and decked with the jewelry and ornaments, and that's why he is Arya. And Vishnu is Anarya, Shiva is Anarya. Like they're bringing all Arya and Anarya and such nonsense. It is not. It is not that. So this is how we have to look into the spirit. Shiva means Mangala. Vishnu means pervading space, Vyapnoti, that which occupies everything. Vishnu is accommodation, occupation, and Shiva is consolidation. Both are needed. Then the fourth question, what is the relationship between science and spirituality? Very good. Many people discuss a lot about that, but often it will be misleading. Spirituality is connected with the person who is inquiring, while science mostly deals with the things which we want to explore. Earlier in my earlier talks, I told that the nature of science is pramana oriented, while the nature of philosophy, spirituality, is pramatra oriented. Pramatra means the person who is inquiring, going inward. Pramana means going outward. Hence, the approach itself has different directions. In a straight line, one is the other end, another one is belongs to some other end. They belong to the same straight line, these two poles, but they are at different corners. If you go inward, it becomes spirituality. If you go outward, it becomes science. The methodology is one and the same. Experience. In the case of science, the experience as got by the sense organs, that is their perception and inference, that becomes the basis of science. But while in the spirituality, it is the first universal experience beyond our sense organs. I'm not mystifying. I told about Avastatraya for that reason. In sound sleep, we would have experienced absolute bliss, but we have not seen it, not heard it, not touched it, not tasted it, not even inferred it. And yet we have experienced. How did we experience bliss in our sleep? It's not through any of these pratyaksha and anumana, direct perception and inference, but it is the experience. And this is a very peculiar experience which is product of something beyond our sense organs. Something devoid of our sense organs, independent of our sense organs, and that's the nature of spirituality. While we want to know the nature of atoms, the nature of a plant, the nature of an animal, and the nature of society, all the social sciences, or normative sciences, or even the economics, or even law, even fine arts, they have an element of science, Sangeeta Shastra, the science of music, the Kavi Shastra, the science of poetry, like that. Everywhere we have our sense organs working, but not in spirituality. But that will become the basis. And that difference one has to note down. And how has Indian thought perceived them? This is how I told. Avastatraya Mimamsa, Adhyaropapavadabhyam Nishprapancham Prapanchite. One scholar had sent one question where how come Jain texts have not been involved, they should have been involved. I have not involved any specific and have not eliminated any other thing. I have involved the holistic Indian spirituality. Why I am speaking some of these works? Because I am very familiar with them. Though I have read Buddhism and Jainism in the originals, I have read Jainism in Ardhamagadi and also in Sanskrit. I have read Buddhism in Pali and also in Sanskrit sources, and in the other one called the mix of them, that is hybrid Sanskrit as modern Scott. And all these things I have gone through, I have read them. What I have found is oneness in Samanya Dharma, whether it is Jaina or Buddha or Charvaka for that matter, the Samanya Dharma all agree, and that has to be taken as benchmark. And when I am going to Avastatraya, I am not at all dependent on any text. I am going by my own experience. And in the first session, I told how to arrive at spirituality without depending upon any book. How to know the temporality of space and time. That all I have told. Please go back to that and continue. Then the next one. What is the importance of metaphysics in academia today? Very much, very, very important question. Metaphysics means it is not mysticism. In the very word mysticism, we have mist, means confusing, foggy, Brahma. And in mysticism, what happens? Individual experiences, they become more important. I feel so. I had a revelation. I had some vision. I got some vibration. Many people speak. Starting from Christ or Moses or even Muhammad, or so many people belonging to so many religions, East or West, Indian or foreign. Many of the mystics, they speak, this is my experience of God. His or her experience has to be respected for his or her sake alone, not for one and all. It should become universal. When it becomes universal, when one and all can experience that. Unless one and all can experience, it cannot become a science. And so, in the name of metaphysics, we should not bring in mysticism. It should be universal. For that sake, I told how to go beyond space and time by the philosophy of Avastatraya. And that's why I depended on Upanishads, not for anything else, not for my special partiality for that. And so in academia means objectivity. Objectivity means this rationality has to be brought in. That cannot happen with the metaphysics what we have in various darshanas and various religions. Religions means I'm saying Abrahamic religions. Darshanas I'm saying Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and so many things we have. There we have the conclusion because they are all bookish in nature. We cannot verify. How to verify a Trasarenu, how to verify a Venuka, how to verify a Trenuka, how to verify a Chaturunaka, how to verify Ritambhara Samadhi, how to verify Asampragyata Samadhi, Sampragyata Samadhi. If one says I have, then some other say I will not have, or you don't have it. This problem is there, and that's why since time immemorial there is a dictum. Kanado id sarvajñah gautamo neti kaprama. Tauvo yadi sarvajño matabedha katantayoho. If Kanada is omniscient, is a percent, is a person who knows everything, why not Gautama? If they are knowing everything, how come there is a difference in their views? So this is the problem, and that's why it should become universal. And for universality, we have to arrive at the temporality of space and time. How Desha and Kala are Aupadika, Tatkalika. And this is what modern science also speaks. And hence, in academia, to bring that objectivity to metaphysics, we have to settle these matters, and then we can have it. If not, it will never be accepted by people who want to rationalize things. Then, sixth question, how does embedded meanings in language text subconsciously foster colonization of mind? We have seen how Western concepts inserted in our language, like secularism, religion, liberalism, have impacted our discourses in society. What can be done? Very good question. For that, recently, Rajiv Malhotra and another scholar have brought out a book. Some Sanskrit terms are untranslatable. Yes, a few terms are untranslatable. Professor PVK used to say, Krishna Bhattacharya used to say, religion is untranslatable into any of the Indian languages, and so also dharma is untranslatable into any other foreign language. Yes, such problem is double-edged sword. Hence, we have to keep them as they are, and we have to give that. For example, you see, people like Sheldon Pollack, they try to translate even authors, even books also. Kavya Darsha is one book on poetics written by a person from 7th century Common Era, Dandi, Acharya Dandi from Kanchipuram. He says, mirror of poetics, mirror of poetry. Adarsha has two meanings, ideal and mirror, both are there. In his translation, Richard translation, the meaning ideal is missing. He takes only as mirror. What happens with mirror? Mirror will show the real image, virtual image, but their left will become right and right will become left. Inversion is there. So dangerous it is. In my mirror, I see my left ear as right. Is it not? How wrong it is. Nowadays, because of the BJP government, all leftists are becoming rightists. And that's the danger. Tasma Jagrata Jagrata. Because white hands build anthills and serpents come and reside there. That's happening now. This is the danger. Empowering danger. We have to be careful about that. And that's why certain words cannot be translated which have a connotation. And that's why in our Shastra, we have some words have Pratipadika and some words have Vakyartha. Vakyartha means they can be explained in one sentence. They can be defined in a sentence. They are words which have Vakyartha. But experiential words, those which represent experiences, they cannot be defined. They have Pratipadika. For example, sweet, pain, pleasure. How to define them?
Can anyone explain what is pain? No, impossible. Can anyone explain sweet to me? Unless they make me eat a spoonful of sugar or jaggery or honey, I will not. Even there, the taste of honey is something, the taste of sugar is something, the taste of jaggery is something different. Ikshukshira gudadinam rasasya antaram mat. That's what Gandhi says. All these things, though they are sweet, their taste is so different, and even Saraswati also is unable to explain the difference. And such things are with experience, and that's why rasa, brahma, dharma, jnana, moksha, and such things, they cannot be translated. So also kula, for example, very important word connected with sociology. Kula means family. Many people wrongly translate it as caste. And jati is not just caste. Jati is genus. So many things are there, they are wrongly translated. That's why better go to our regional languages. For example, a faithful translation in Hindi or Marathi or Bengali or Kannada or Telugu or Marathi, that is far, far more better than these things. Then these concepts also, you have to understand them properly. They carry a certain decorum, they carry certain emotion. We have to go with that. Tirtha cannot be translated as holy water. Holy water means something else. So also, Deva should not be translated as God. The word Deva has come, Devata or Devi or Deva, Daivatam has come from the root Divu. It has 6 or 7 meanings from the etymology itself. It deals with light, brilliance, and it deals with joy, ananda. It deals with leela, play, and so many things. I don't know how can all these things be brought out in one word, God. It is misleading, heavily misleading. Then, how can social sciences firstly identify such constructs and secondly pursue decolonization? Give that the dominant language in academia is still English. For that, we have to depend upon authors from Indian origin, from the traditional background, with the exposure to Western world, and who are sincere and sensitive enough to understand the reality. Such scholars English writing. For example, one Hiriyanna, one Chandrakar Sharma, one P.V. Kane, one Raghavan, one Dr. K. Krishnamurti. Such people are far more dependable than others. For example, Ramesh Chandra Mujumdar of history, or Yadunath Sarkar, another luminary in history. Such people are dependable to an extent. Gruye in sociology, Sanal in sociology. Such people, to an extent, I'm saying, not fully, they are more important to us than the Western scholar. If one person wants to, because I'm well rooted in certain areas, I'm not a social scientist, I'm not an economist, I'm not a legal expert. So, in my field, I can say how many Western authors are dependable. For example, when compared to Sheldon Pollack, his mentor, D.H.H. Ingalls, Daniel H. Ingalls, is far, far, far better. Such selective understanding should be there. That can be acquired only by constant study and time-honored interaction. Long time interaction may bring in such understanding, and also better go to our regional languages. A scholar like Hazari Prasad Dwivedi of Hindi is far better than any formally trained Western scholar in understanding Indian ethos. A great luminary like D.V. Gundappa is far more better than any other Western scholar in understanding political science, in understanding poetry and other things. To understand Indian history, to understand Indian freedom struggle, Aurobindo is far better. That's what we have to look into.
So we have to go to people who have acquaintance with this and who know the difference. Only an experienced person can know. Uh, a lay ear may not be capable of identifying different ragas or ragas which are very close to each other. But only a trained ear can. Likewise, we have coffee tasters, tea tasters, and wine tasters. We cannot understand the difference, but they can. So, Atha idite karma vichikitsa va vrta vichikitsa va syat. Whenever you have confusion here, you go to people of experience and who are polite, who are considerate, and who are magnanimous. They aluksha dharma kamasyu yathate tatra varten tathateshu varteta. That is the dictum of Upanishads in graduation addressing, in graduate addressing. Well, there has been a rising awareness regarding decolonization and indigenization of social sciences in India. Yet, what is still missing? How can budding researchers contribute in this? Very good. All questions are really good and concerned. You have to study. Swadhyaya pravachane yeve tina komodgalya tadvitapah yen quoting Taittiriya. One has to study constantly. No other, no other. See, not to boast of myself, every text I quote, I have gone through them from cover to cover. All the four Vedas with the commentary of Sayana, I have read 3 times. All the 18 Puranas, I have read twice. Means, unless I read them completely from cover to cover, I should not make any statement. It means it is a very toiling thing. I went through a subject called Prosody Chandas Shastra. I studied almost all the meters, not only of India, even of the non-Indian origin, whether it is Japanese haiku or Greek meters or Roman meter, whatever, everything I studied. And ultimately, I found out only one line. Chandas is not an indispensable thing in poetry, but it is a desirable thing in poetry. It is not anivarya. Chandas तो नहीं अनिवार्य जो तो अपेक्षित मूल्य है. For this much I have to toil myself for years, but this is a very strong realization. Means for this one line realization, all those years of toiling is worth of it, worthy of it. This is how we have to get in touch with these things, and that's why it's the only one way. There is no shortcut in life. Why I'm saying this, going through these things would make, and that's why I suggested, and once again I request all of you, if anyone could translate Paramartha Chintamani of Sachidananda Saraswati into, it's already translated to English by Professor Gangoli, into Hindi, that English translation, or directly from Kannada, it would be of great use to arrive at the Avasthatraya Mimamsa. And also works of Professor M. Hiriyana, some select writings. I have made a collection of that, best of M. Hiriyana in one book, something like 500 pages. If that English work could be translated into Hindi, because there is nothing like copyright rule or any such thing. He died long ago. Professor Hiriyana died in 1950 itself, and that's why no problem of copyright also. And even the compilation, I don't claim any rights. Jnane sarvesham adhikara. Everyone has right for knowledge, and that's why that can be translated into Hindi so that many people could get benefited. And also one book, though small book, very powerful book, that is Bharatiya Sanskriti by S. Shrikant Shastri. If that could be translated into Hindi, nothing like it, to understand in one nutshell, hardly 300 pages. Very powerful book. And also 2-volume book, Foundations of Indian Culture by Govind Chandra Pandya. Perhaps he has written the same thing in Hindi also. Very great scholar. Unfortunately, we lost him in recent years. He is very good scholar. And such works will be of use for ice-breaking sessions to go through the Indian culture in general, and also the abridged version of P.V. Karne's History of Dharmashastra, Dharmashastra ka Itihas in 5 volumes. In Hindi, it is being translated, and in Marathi also that is available, and of course the English work is available. One and all must read. Any person who wants to make any study in any aspect of Indian culture, let alone sociology, let alone economics, let alone aesthetics, any subject, that person has to read P.V. Karne, has to read P.V. Karne. And for over 50 years he toiled for that. And this is what my humble submission to all budding researchers. And then Hindi questions. मनु कौन थे? भारतीय मानव जाति के जनक या प्रथम व्यक्ति, प्रथम राजा या मनुस्मृति के रचयिता? हाँ, Manu is supposed to be the origin of human race. Manava, the word has come from Manu. Manute iti manavaha. One who thinks is manava. As Aristotle says, man is a rational animal. So rationality, objectivity, analysis, that is manava. In that sense, Manu is the origin. And so everywhere it is there. Manu as a concept is always present. And as there is a work, there should be a person. As we have a book, author should be there. A book cannot happen by itself. And so, whenever there is karana, there should be karya. And so we attribute to a person. We don't have the Aadhaar card of Manu. At the same time, Pratham Vyakti means, yes. Well, in what sense? It has to be understood in the Adhyatmika sense. As Isaac Asimov, a renowned person in science, the field of science fiction and popular science books, he says, in the development of human race, barring few thousand people who contributed for the well-being of one and all since time immemorial, since the invention of fire, from that time onwards, very few people, very few thousand people have toiled for the upliftment of human race. But for that, the rest of the people have had meaningless, useless life, and they died like creatures. That's what he writes. And so, few people will be remembered. In those few people, Manu is also one name. And I also told in the last time, we should not attribute paramount importance to Manu. With no disrespect, I am saying, Manu is not the only person, only book, only entity in Sanatana Dharma. Even if Manusmriti is lost forever, there is no harm to Sanatana Dharma. Because even prior to Manusmriti, there were so many other Dharma Sutras. Why I am saying, it is the tiny and limited understanding of Indian culture makes Manu big. Because our opponents know our weaknesses. And we don't know any other name apart from Manu, they start attacking them. Say about Katyayana, who will oppose? Say about Parashara, who will oppose? They are also as great as Manu. Say about other Sutrakaras, other Smritikaras. Say about Bhagavan Vedavyasa. Because we know from the very Mahabharata, when all the 4 Vedas were weighed against Mahabharata, Mahabharata weighed more. It is said, Dharme cha arthe cha kame cha mokshe cha bhartarshava, yadihat dadan yatra yanyahatra tatpati. Herald Mahabharata. Honestly, by any measure, all these Dharma Shastras can be thrown, can even be burnt. But one Mahabharata is enough to retrieve them back. Why I am saying it, don't harp more on Manu. If Manu is taken as our weakness, then don't bother about it. You leave Manu happily for himself. And so Manu is also saved and we are also saved. I am not giving an escapement. I am not giving that. Because now I shall argue for Manu. In Manusmriti we have more than 2000 verses. In 2000 verses, really undigestible and unagreeable, really opposed things are with which we cannot agree with that, they are more than 100 verses by any general measure, more than 100 verses. But you just see, our constitution, how old it is? 70 years. 70 years our constitution, how many corrections have been made? How many amendments have been made? In one emergency itself, it was massacred, butchered by Indira Gandhi. Then, Manusmriti, at least by any conservative estimate, 2000 years old. For 70 years of constitution, we have more than 200 odd amendments. It means, how many amendments would Manu entitle? In spite of that, it has. Means hardly 100 verses can be removed. And in them, so many, more than 1500 verses, they are relevant, but relevant to that time. They are not bad. They were relevant to those days. For example, he says, which are the things which are to be sold by a Brahmin? If a Brahmin enters into business, which things he can deal with? He says he should not deal with salt, he should not deal with oil. Nowadays, it is not feasible. If a Brahmin keeps a Kirani shop, if a Brahmin keeps a provision shop, you cannot say, I don't have salt, I don't have oil. So, it's absurd. He says, Manu says, a student has to pay his fee at the end of schooling. Vidyante Dakshina. Now, the teacher has to be paid with salary. And that's why he cannot wait, teacher cannot wait till he gets graduate, till he becomes graduate. Like that, there are so many good things. There the intent is, Brahmin should not monopolize the market. And also teacher should not be greedy enough to grab away all the wealth of student before teaching him, before graduating him. And so it should not be, the spirit has to be taken. Literally, it need not be taken. And also, this, whenever a person comes, he should be offered a mat. Like that, by a guest. Nowadays, a person like me having problem with back and also having my hip bone replaced, I cannot squat on floor, then I need a chair. So Manu has not mentioned anything about chair. Then what is the relevance of that verse to you? Such things are many. Why I'm saying many people have some fascination for Manu, fascination for Kautilya. Sorry if I'm very rude. As I have almost taken a portion of all these people, have drank them virtually, I know. Where they find relevant, where they are not. Irrelevant means not they were irrelevant in those days. It was, for example, Kautilya says about building of forts. No, when we have push buttons and guided missiles available, no fort can protect them. Then what he means? Protection, that's what he means. We have different ways of protection. We have cyber protection, so many things are there. In that way, we have to take this spirited philosophy. Like that, 1500 verses of Manu, they are good in intent, but they are actually applicable in some other time. But now, the spirit is only applicable. Then means hardly 500 verses of Manu, they become relevant to us. And 100 verses of Manu are bad. We can keep them away. Well, what is wrong with that? In our constitution itself, we have already butchered it so badly, and we are again feeling proud about our constitution. Why not be proud about Manu? Like that, this objectivity comes to our mind only when we read it properly. Without reading Ajata Putra Namotkirtanam, even before the child was born, thinking about its name and also about its dresses, it's all foolish. And that's why I take this opportunity to say that we need not be scared of people who want to attack on a book, because we transcend the book. And we all know that Apratishidham Anumatam Bhavati. Even Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Yathechasi Tatha Kuru, Vimrishyeta Dasheshena. That liberty has been given in our tradition. Shankara Bhagavad he says in the Upanishad Bhashya, Brihadaranyaka Chandogya, he puts a question from his opponent and says, when you argue so, you have to discard the Vedas. Do you agree? Then Shankara answers, Tadishyate eva asmabhihi yat swayam shrutiraha atra veda veda iti. Yes, that's what we desire. Even the very Vedas have said atra veda veda. The Vedas become irrelevant at one point. Even in the Buddhist tradition, it is said avachanam buddha vachanam. Even in the Jain tradition, it is said nirgranthi. So transcending the books, I told in my earlier discourses, when every Veda Vidwan, Veda Vidyarthi, every student of the Veda should practice Vedas every day. And at the end of Brahmajna, that is the recitation of the Veda, he has or she has to recite one mantra. There, what is the meaning of mantra? What is the use of these Vedas if he is not going to realize the inner Veda? All these Vedas will come to no use. Yastanna Veda Kimrcha Karishyati. One who knows the internal Veda, that is the experiential one. To him, all these external Vedas they come and pour out. And this is our tradition has not been scared of these people, and that's why need not be bothered about that. So we have to challenge a person who is coming with an ulterior motive, quoting from the Manusmriti, Naprashtat kasyachut bhuyat nachanyayena prichyata. If a person is not questioned, he should not answer. Unwarranted answers are not good. And at the same time, if a person is questioning wrongly, he should not be answered. And in the very interesting discussion happened recently in one scholarly gathering. Our Sanatana Dharmas, Hinduism's works are misinterpreted and mistranslated by the Western scholars, but even the Buddhist works are also mistranslated and misrepresented, but not much of the Jain works. Why? Because in Jainism, fortunately, Jain texts are not made easily available to Western scholars. Much of the Jain texts are in the custody of our verily noble and verily great Jain Munis, sadhus and sadhis, because they undergo a lot of penance and lot of austerity, and their practice of tradition and practice of japa, vrata, and all is extraordinary. I have to respect them. I know them personally. And I have been associated in so many Jain Shvetambars and Digambars also. Whenever they come to Bangalore for Chaturmasya and other things, I go to them and interact with them, and they are interested in my art of Avadhanam and all that. When Muni Rajkaranji was so affectionate and kind to me. Well, why I'm saying these works were not given to them for misinterpretation and misrepresentation. That's why we need not be overwhelmed and enamored by their crafty approaches and give away our tradition. Why we should? When someone wants to get grants from India for doing some study in Sanskrit in America or in Russia or in England, why we should give away? Our government should not budge to such requests, such temptations. And why we should give Padma Shri or Padma Bhushana to non-Indian scholar? It is our civilian respect. It is only to a citizen of India or a citizen Indian by birth. Like that, we have to make it. And so, why we should learn from them? As Radhakrishnan used to say, when Radhakrishnan was teaching philosophy in Mysore University, students used to ask him, "Sir, when you are going to England, then England was the Mecca of all intellectuals, is it not?" Then he said, "Yes, we shall go to teach them." That happened. Radhakrishnan went as a professor and not as a student. This should be our spirit. Why we should be lost for everything when a white man appears in front of us? No need for that. This is how we should have self-esteem and self-respect. We need not disrespect them. Well, you come. I am not interested in learning from you. Why I should learn from you? See, my Sanskrit, my music, my poetry, why I should learn from you? I have my own tradition, I have my own gurus. Is it not? I need not go. If you want to teach me, you teach me in what way I expect my teacher to be. We have to examine our teachers also. This is how that self-respect has to be developed. That can only happen with tapasya, upasana, that is jnanopasana. Hence, we need not ponder over Manu again and again. And I'm saying clearly, very little about society can be drawn from Manu. What you can draw from a work like Mrichakatikam, or a work like Mahabharata, or a work like Kumar Sambhava is far more, or a work like Dashakumara Charita is far more when compared to Manusmriti. Well, क्या डॉक्टर सुरेंद्र कुमार की मनुस्मृति मानक है? Sorry, I don't know this author. I have to say, confess that I read the originals in the originals. I never went through any interpreter. Later only I came through translations, very few translations. So I went to Gangotri itself to fetch Ganga. Not even to Rudraprayag or Devaprayag, let alone Varanasi or Hubli. वाल्मीकि का वास्तविक परिचय क्या है? वाल्मीकि was in the Padma Purana, it is given not in Ramayana. In Padma Purana, it is said that Valmiki belonged to a family of seers who were from Varuna, Pracheta, and so he was a Prachetasa. In our tradition, we have two sets of seers. One group is of Bhargavas, other is of Angirasas. Angirasas are connected with the origin of Saraswati, and Bhargavas are connected with the mouth of Saraswati, where Saraswati enters into the ocean. And Bhargavas worked mostly for the upliftment of all our positive sciences, normative sciences, and all our worldly pursuits. And that's why Bhargavi Lakshmi is called so. The wealth of knowledge, the prosperity in terms of matter and material that was generated by the clan of Bhrugus is Bhargavi Lakshmi. I have a paper also on this, but unfortunately it is written in Kannada. I want to write for my people, so I write more in Kannada and Sanskrit than in English. Well, and Angirasas were more with the esoteric and more with the spiritual pursuit. Angirasas were represented by Brahaspati, and Bhargavas were represented by Shukracharya. Shukracharya is the mentor of Asuras, and Brahaspati was the mentor of Devas, Suras and Asuras, like that. And Asuras were also good. Earlier they were good, but when their pursuit was restricted to mere materialism, see, material prosperity is not wrong. When it becomes cutthroat materialism, that is cutthroat capitalism, then it is very bad. So Asuras became materialists of the capitalist order or communistic order. Then Suras came out and they had to fight with them. They had to fight with them. So it happened. I'm not going to those details, but this is how Valmiki, Vasishtha, Prachetasa, Chavana, Shukra, and so many people belong to Bhargava. In the area of medicine, Chavana is there. In the area of Rajaniti, Shukra is there. And in the area of poetry, Valmiki is there. And also in the area of many walks of life, we have Bhrugus. Like that, Valmiki also belonged to that. And many of our Puranas and Itihasas were compiled and enlarged by this. Well-known scholar Chitkankar, the chief editor of critical edition of Mahabharata, he proposed a theory called Bhargava theory and writes how our texts were preserved, enlarged, and propagated by these Bhargavas, and Valmiki belonged to that. And in his childhood, he his upbringing happened with the hunters, and that's why he went to he became a thief also. That story and all, you know. And every sinner has a future, so every saint has a past, and that happened in the case of Valmiki. It's a profound saga, great saga of enlightenment. What is the intake for our purpose? Means people coming from so-called well-educated, so-called enlightened families can also get corrupted, and they can also come back to that track. They can be set right, and that can become a boon to human race, humankind, like that. क्या वे काश्यप ऋषि अदिति की नवी संतान? No, no. Kashyapa and Aditi, they took birth as Janaka and Kaushalya, and then Vasudeva and Devaki, like that the Purana say, not about Valmiki. क्या पराशर जैमिनी और भृगु ऋषि आदि सगे भाई थे? No, no, no. They are all different. Parashara was son of Vyasa. I'm sorry, grandson of Vyasa. Grandson of Vasishtha. Vasishtha's son was Shakti, and Shakti's son was Parashara, and Parashara's son was Vyasa, and Vyasa's disciple was Jaimini. And Bhrigu, much earlier, he and Vyasa, I'm sorry, he and Vasishtha, they belong to the same generation. Then इक्ष्वाकु मनु का संतान भी फिर भी श्री राम इक्ष्वाकु के वंश क्यों माने जाते हैं? मनु के वंशज क्यों नहीं? Manu's first son was Ikshvaku, and Manu had two lineage. Manu's daughter was Ila. Ila married Buddha, son of Chandra, and from then Chandravamsha was developed. And Manu's son was Ikshvaku. From Ikshvaku, Surya Vamsha, because Vaivasvata Manu means Manu's father was Surya. So it is a metaphysical concept. From one Surya, the same light was reflected by moon, and from there the lineage, and from sun the other lineage. So Rama from Ikshvaku Vamsha, he is also called Vaivasvata Vamshiya. He is also called Raghuvamshiya, because in one lineage, if only one achiever is there, then it goes by that name alone. If there are many achievers, we identify by that. See, in Sanatana Dharma, we have many rishis, and that's why we cannot attribute to one rishi. It can be attributed to Vasishtha, it can be attributed to Vishwamitra, it can be attributed to many, and it is, they are all the custodians of Sanatana Dharma, like that. So, we need not be perplexed by that. And for that, we have to look into the genealogy, we have to look into Vamshavali, and then we will be knowing. It is also called Raghuvamsha, because Raghu became a great king. One has to refer to Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha, then we will be knowing. And Ikshvaku, because he became the first king of Ayodhya. Manu built Ayodhya and enthroned his son, and then from Ikshvaku, it went on like that. पुनर्जन्म और अवतारवाद की संकल्पना कैसे समझे? It is beyond the purview of sociology, but this much. This need not be thought much. Karma Siddhanta is the basis for Punarjanma. But Avatara has nothing to do with Karma Siddhanta. Avatara is Leela. It is, if I want to go to my college and sit in a classroom just for a while and listen to teaching, it is not my karma. It is my Leela. I want to enjoy my student days. So I am not bound by the rules of examination. So I am going and comfortably sitting and leisurely listening to my teacher and saying hello, namaskar, that's all, coming back. So Leela is of God, Paramatma, Devata. But karma is of Jiva. Leela is of Daiva. And karma is of Manava. So that is the difference. And so karma makes a person live once again and meet with the good and bad, like that. But Karma Siddhanta is very, very superficial and secondary to Sanatana Dharma. Many people, including great seers, great sages, great Mathadhipatis, and great champions of Indian culture, they wrongly say Karma Siddhanta as the bedrock and Punarjanma Siddhanta as the bedrock of Sanatana Dharma. It is wrong, wrong, wrong. I am saying this. Clearly I am saying this. It is Satchidananda Siddhanta. That is the bedrock of Sanatana Dharma. Because Karma Siddhanta is a belief, while Satchidananda is an experience. our Sanatana Dharma is not dependent on belief like the Abrahamic religions, like Semitic religions, but it is dependent on experience. Well, I think I have taken much of your time. Let me go through. Yes, one more question. क्या बुद्ध को हिंदू धर्म का 10वां अवतार माने? Already it is there. Buddha has been treated as Navama Avatar. The Dashama Avatara, that is Daswa Avatar, so Kalki. And then many people don't know. Even the great first Tirthankara, Bhagavan Adinatha, Vrishabhadeva Tirthankara, he is taken as one of the avatars Mahavishnu in Bhagavad Purana, the sacred Purana, one among the 18 Mahapuranas, and the most well-known and popular Purana, the Mahabhagavad Purana. In Mahabhagavad Purana, it is Vrishabhavatara, Vrishabhatirthankara Avatara. He is considered as one of the 24 avatars of Mahavishnu, and Buddha is also an avatar. Hence, to the frame of Sanatana Dharma, all these things are included, and even Sikhism is included. They may find differences, but we don't find differences. As Ambedkar beautifully said, when he is going to embrace a religion other than a mata, other than Vedic mata, he will be adhering to the land of this, the mata of this, a philosophy of this land, not to any other alien thing. And that's so Buddha, Jaina, or Sikha, everything is within the frame of Sanatana Dharma, and that's well known. And even it has been very well propounded by our Veer Savarkar ji. Well, these are the questions which I have received, and anything more?
There are other questions also, Shatabdani ji. Many more questions sent to you.
But I think this will be too much. Maybe we should.
I think the persons who have already sent the question, they should.
No. I understand. I've seen those questions, Bajpayee ji. Yeah. What I'm saying is, we should request Ganesh ji if he is willing to do them today, or can he give us one more day?
One thing I want to say, me going on with this has no use. Honestly say.
Yes.
Please set a target, study a work, then I may be of some help.
Yes.
Find any difficulty, I will be always available. मैं तो आपके सेवा के लिए हूँ.
तो अभी क्या है, क्वेश्चन को कैसे लेना है या अभी बाकी अभी
जो क्वेश्चंस पहले गए हैं,
मैं
शताब्दानी जो उत्तर देना चाहते हैं तो आप एक एक करके पढ़ दीजिए.
हाँ, मैं पढ़ता हूँ जो आपने भेजा था, उसमें कुछ बचे रह गए हैं.
जी.
प्रोफेसर बारेलाल जैन अवधेश प्रताप सिंह विश्वविद्यालय रीवा से पूछ रहे हैं, आपके व्याख्यान में संस्कृत के ग्रंथों का विशद उल्लेख हुआ है, उसके लिए साधुवाद. परंतु जैन साहित्य में भी भारतीय जीवन मूल्य और समाज विज्ञान की व्यवहारिक विशद व्याख्या है. हमें लगता है कि जैन वाली बात इन्होंने कर दी है, तो शायद प्रोफेसर बारेलाल जैन जी उचित रूप से आनंद प्राप्त कर चुके होंगे. इसलिए एक दूसरा प्रश्न आपकी अनुमति से लेता हूँ, सारिका सिंह की, जो बनारस की हैं. वो शोध छात्रा है, बर्डिंग स्कॉलर है, तो मैं समझता हूँ आपकी अनुमति लेके इनके सामने प्रस्तुत करता हूँ. भारतीय मूल का समाज विज्ञान धर्म और अध्यात्म से आच्छादित है, जबकि आधुनिक समाज विज्ञान सबको अलग अलग मानता है. धर्म अध्यात्म की बात करना भी अनुचित और प्रासंगिक लगता है. इनमें तादात्म्य कैसे हो? और मुझे ध्यान में आता है कि रिलीजन स्पिरिचुअलिटी पर एक प्रश्न था, उसके उत्तर से ये संतुष्ट प्राप्त हो जाएगा क्या? क्योंकि सारिका सिंह जी अभी है नहीं लाइन पर यहाँ. एक प्रोफेसर रितु तिवारी का प्रश्न है नागपुर से, वो आर्य कन्या महाविद्यालय में पढ़ाती हैं. ये प्रश्न बड़ा उचित लग रहा है. भारतीय वांग्मय स्त्रियों के सम्मान, स्वतंत्रता और सुरक्षा को सुनिश्चित करता है, पर आज स्थिति बिल्कुल भिन्न है. कब तक मुगलों और अंग्रेजों को दोषी बताते रहेंगे? क्या हमारे साहित्य की बातें खोखली तो नहीं? प्रोफेसर रितु तिवारी पूछ रही हैं.
Very good.
Sir, I would just like to add one thing here, just to elaborate on that. That people are asking also, how and when how can we trace the origin of patriarchy in our society? That is related to that. So patriarchy, I'll just give you one context. Yuval Noah Harari has written 3 books, Sapiens and whatever. So in that also is confounding question for me is, I've read across different religions. I have not been able to come to a conclusion where and how did patriarchy originate and why it has sustained.
Here and all, we have to be very objective and look into the issue. See, women, even today, they have the responsibility of conceiving, delivering the child. So, before contraceptives, woman was completely entrapped in this, conceiving and nurturing. I think you people know much better than me. To bring a child, at least a mother has to spend 10 years of her precious life. Minimum. Means naturally she will become handicapped. See, the greatest boon of a woman is matritva. But that responsibility takes so much of her time and energy. Then naturally comes the role of men. And so, this is the nature. Hence, naturally it will come. Naturally it will come. When the society becomes sophisticated, when the society is simple, it is completely based on hunting, not on agricultural society, not on knowledge producing society, not on business based society. We need lot of time for this activity. But mother has to restrict. I will not, generally any mother cannot say so. Because we know kuputro jayate kvachiditi kumata na bhavati. So a father has connection with his child only from the time of its birth. But mother would have had before 9 months. When that being the case, as mother has given so much of flesh and blood to them, it's not an emotional thing. It is actual reality in nature. And hence, mother is restricted by the child. In that sense, she is producing a new generation. That is a greater responsibility. But unfortunately, that has been not realized by the materially driven world. But in our tradition, we respect it. Quoting no, Pitta Shatagunam Mata. Mother has to be respected 100 times more than the father. And in our Dharma Shastras, for example, Apastama Dharma Sutra, to which I belong to Apastama Shakha Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda, following Apastama Dharma Sutra. It is said, even when the mother is undergoing adultery, when a mother is not faithful to her husband, even then a son cannot abandon his mother. He has to protect her. This is our Dharma Shastra is. And also, it is said in our Dharma Shastras, if a husband is not loyal to his wife, he has to clad donkey's hide on his body for 6 months and beg at 7 places. It is said. So, this much has been said, means the respect has been given. Matradevo Bhava is the first victim in Snatakopadesha, in Upanishad. And in the Mahabharata, it is said, Bhumer Gariyasi Mata. Why I am saying, motherhood has been respected very much for this reason. Now, because of the contraceptives, women liberation has really happened, not just by education, not just by employment, it is by the contraceptives. When she has solution in her hand, whether it is for good or bad, I am not going to the ethical issues behind that. A woman can be as cool and as comfortable and as carefree as man. Because of that, the situation is different. Can we expect such things to happen in earlier? No, it was not. And also, because of mechanization, now we have unemployment with human beings and machines are being employed. Earlier, manpower or woman power, human power was the only thing. Apart from few domesticated animals like horse and elephant in our country, like cows and bulls, what else? Cows could not. It's only bull, horse. In India, horse was a costly thing. And how many people could have elephants? Only few people. So much of the things used to go by bull power. Baila, Bailgadi, it's ox. In the West, horse, and that's why horsepower became the measure of power even in physics. Hence, it's all happened with the industrialization, industrial revolution in late 18th century in the Western world. And that too when they developed the colonies, and the colonies poured raw material like anything. Earlier, India, before it became colony to Britishers and other people, India used to produce finished goods, and later it used to export raw material. And England, to process the cotton and other raw material, they developed machines. Its necessity is the mother of invention. That's how industrialization happened. Hence, when we look into all these things, interdisciplinary study naturally show these are all the issues of recent 200 years, and that is not a big issue in the earlier society. And women used to be an inseparable part of production, because if he's a potter, he used to bring mud from a lake or ancestry countryside, and that mud he used to prepare the pots, but the fire stick for that used to be brought by her wife. And for the weekend mela, as we know, in the villages which will happen every week, to that wife used to go. Usually women used to go. They used to be the saleswomen. And for why they have to bring commodities for household purpose, they have to purchase, whether by barter exchange or by money or whatever, they have to go. And so half of the work they have to take the responsibility. Even if he were to be a weaver, man used to be weaver means she used to spin the thread and she used to dye the thread and she used to sell. Likewise, they used to divide equally. And even if it were to be an agricultural family, women used to divide. And that's why in our ancient society, we don't ever hear Varadakshina. We hear only Vadu Dakshina, I told earlier. Because woman was very precious thing. She was a big property. She could produce next generation. She could produce workers for the next generation. All these things. And that's why it is only after industrial revolution women were restricted to four walls and they were not working on par with men. Before that, in every working family, men and women, because there is nothing like centralized factory, because mechanization was not there, everything was cottage industry. In Kautilya Satyashastra, we do find such things. Every morning, people used to go with the raw material to respective houses where women used to go, to produce finished products, and evening they used to collect like that. We come across such things, and hence any work used to happen within the four walls of the family or in the fields. There's nothing like men used to work and women used to just cook, because men also used to sit. Now because of corona, our software engineers also sitting within the four walls of the house and then they are working. That used to happen. That being the case, we can clearly understand these are the problems of the modern world, and here only we should get solution and we should get inspiration from there how to respect women like that.
There is a beautiful question coming from Professor Sanjay Satyarthi. He has been talking about this question for a long time. How the Gotras are named?
Gotras are named, earlier they were named by the teacher, not by the father. And so whoever teaches, his students they were. And also we have something called, not just from father, even from the mother side also Gotra used to come. That's why such people were called Dvamushyayanas. For example, my mother's side, my uncle had no sons. So if I want to perform Shraddha to my uncle, I have to take that I am Dvamushyayana. So I am doing it. Though my Gotra is Kashyapa, from mother side I am Atreya. And also, women had rights for performing last rites. Recently, practicing Purohit from Karnataka, from North Kendra, he wrote a work as per the dictum of Shastra, how women can perform the last rites completely, starting from Antyeshti, Dahan Sanskara, up to Pinda Pradhan, everything. And he is performing that, and it is highly accepted. Many scholars have written positive about it, and I have also given support to him. I am saying this is Dvamushyayana. And also, we have one more thing. Taking the mother's name, we have. In the history itself, we have Gautami Putra Shatakarni, Vasishti Putra Shatakarni, what it indicates. Our Ashwagosha, a great Buddhist poet and monk, was Arya Suvarnakshi Putra, great poet like Bhavabhuti. He says Jatukarni Putra. Everywhere we have that. Both from fathers and mothers they used to take. For example, Pandavas were Pandu's sons and Pandavas, and also Kunti's sons, and that's why Kaunteyas, and Madri's sons, that's why Madreyas. Such a derivation cannot be done in any other language, only in Sanskrit. And also in Greek and Latin they can be done, but not in any other languages like English, French, or like that. We have both. That's why Krishna is Daivakeya, son of Devaki, and also son of Vasudeva. Both are there. And it is such way. And also, one thing, assuming that this is superior and that is inferior and trying to find fault with a practice is not fair. It's not objective.
A few more questions. How to go ahead with that? This is a big question because there are two more important things to happen. One is the chair address and the vote of thanks. Vajpayee, advise me if I can take the earlier sent question from your side. Should I go ahead with that? Dr. Narendra Koshti has asked a question from Jabalpur. वैदिक परंपरागत ज्ञान को समाज विज्ञान में किस प्रकार उपयोग किया जा सकता है?
All these days I am saying the same thing. If you ask the same question,
yes,
I have to say ditto.
Yes,
Please listen to all 6 days. Talk of week you'll be rolling. If not, you come.
ऐसा करिए, सारे क्वेश्चंस पढ़ दीजिए, सारे क्वेश्चंस पढ़ दीजिए,
ऐसा करिए, क्वेश्चंस पढ़ दीजिए एक बार, जिनका हो सकता है उसका भी देंगे, बाकी तो बाद में हो सकता है.
Bhatia ji has something to say. Please listen to what Bhatia says. Very rarely, let him say something. He's saying something.
नहीं, मेरा कहना है उनको इससे ज्यादा कष्ट मत दीजिए. ये चलता रहता है. ज्ञान का सिलसिला कभी बंद नहीं होता है. उनको इससे ज्यादा कष्ट मत दीजिए.
अच्छा.
तो मैं सिर्फ नाम ले लेता हूं जिन्होंने प्रश्न किया है.
आप प्रश्न पढ़ दीजिए.
उत्तर पढ़ दीजिए.
डॉक्टर मनीषा मल्होत्रा, अर्थशास्त्र, बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी से. 19वीं 20वीं शताब्दी में संस्कृत का कोई ऐसा महान ग्रंथ जिससे विद्वान भारतीय मूल के समाज विज्ञान को प्रस्तुत करने में सहायक हो? एक प्रश्न डॉक्टर मनीष का है. डॉक्टर मनीषा का भी, प्रोफेसर मनीष का भी है. वो भोपाल के अर्थशास्त्र इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एक्सीलेंस से हैं. उन्होंने भारत के वर्तमान विश्वविद्यालय औपनिवेशिक मानसिकता से ग्रस्त समाज विज्ञान के अध्ययन और अनुसंधान पर प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाया हुआ है और कहते हैं कि आपने जो संस्कृत वांग्मय का ज्ञान हमें दिया, उस ज्ञान से हम किस प्रकार से प्रभावित कर अपने को स्थापित कर सकते हैं. एक और लास्ट में प्रश्न है, उनमें नाम लिखा हुआ नहीं आया लेकिन है, why are Hindus slaves of idols and gods and how the Hinduism emerged and evolved? These are the small comments, and there are two more. Yeah, there are two more. Let me conclude so you can have last words. And Preeti Sharma ji is asking about in the chat box, what is there about the creation of universe and mankind in Vedas, and is Vedic knowledge having anything like that? So there are questions which are keeping coming again and again. So I must control myself by not going into the question. While reading, I got two more questions. So I stop here and I request Shatabdani ji to speak on what he wanted to speak on the last word. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One thing, it may look very harsh, I have to say. How much we have read to understand our culture before asking questions. I may give an answer, but to understand my answer, there needs certain amount of learning, certain amount of culturing, certain amount of cultivation is needed. Because I can fetch a logic, but to understand that logic needs something else, like the language. So is that, and that's why it is so easy, and I can always answer the questions if I know the answer. If not, I will learn and discover the answer and I give it. One can challenge me in any way. I'm not at all hesitant about that. Why I'm saying is, how much we read in proper way. That's what, apart from our academic, apart from the wretched textbooks, what general reading people make. I may be very biased. That I'm honestly saying, nowadays I don't find many people reading books. Whenever they exchange about WhatsApp jokes, and they exchange about share and stock market rates, and also they exchange about their growths of the family, and also their promotion and other problems. And very few people have a regular habit of making an all-round study. That is must. Swadhyaya eveti swadhyaya eveti na swadhyaya pravachane eveti na motrya sadhitapa swadhyaya pravachana. And hence, at least some basic things, and that's why I've given the books also. Unless one reads that, he or she will not be having a receptive mind to understand that. This is, please don't mistake me, with all humility I'm saying this. Having addressed these questions since decades, in so many places, on so many forums, I'm facing the same questions. So I'm very much tired of repeating my answers.
I fully agree with you.
Because that's why I told Bhattji also, I'm not going for these things. Let me leave me for my work. I have to do that. Nobody can take care of my work. That's what I'm saying. Why? Because the same age old questions. How many people are reading the books? I have suggested before 1.5 months. I suggested books. I should ask, if I were to be in open class, raise your hands. How many books? How many people have read X, Y, Z and that book? Let me ask questions from that. I'm a very strict teacher. I used to give negative marks to my students, not just 0. -10, -17, like that also I had given in my engineering college days. Because that much of rigor I need from the people who want to know. That's why, coming to idol worship, I should tell, one need not be scared. Common sense is very important. Idol means some image which becomes an object of eyes. It's not inferior. Even a holy book we hear, is it not? A holy book we read, is it not an image? Image is a mental construct. If a holy chant from Bible or Quran, which is heard, is sacred, why not an image which is seen is not sacred? How come it is inferior? Then if it were to be inferior, I want them to pierce their eyes and become blind. This is my harsh answer. Means sound is an object of ear, so is sight an object of eyes. Can we say that sound itself is God? So that we don't say that image itself is God, the image is also God. The image is also Devata. This is a very simplest and common sense answer. People should have read Swami Vivekananda's writings. So simple to understand. In every Indian language they have been translated. That's the, I expect that a researcher means, especially in social sciences, should have these basic things intact. If not, I don't know what will be the fate of knowledge in our country. With this, I conclude. It may be very, very bitter thing, I should say. This is how I expect that a student should be. These are the things one has to study. That's why doubts in understanding can be answered. Not some flash, I have a doubt. What effort have been gone behind that? I need it first. That's why I told, Please read Mission of Philosophy, Quest After Perfection, Popular Essays in Indian Philosophy, these 3 works of Professor Emiliani. Then come to me. Let us become strongly rooted in this aspect of philosophy and then go further. That's what I told him.
Thank you so much, Professor Ganesh Chattopadhyay. We are very grateful. Before I get negative marks from you and become minus, along with quite a few of people here, I will request Vajpayee ji to come and address the chair remark. And Vajpayee ji, please come forward. It has been great session by all means.
भाई मुझे तो नेगेटिव मार्क्स से डर लगता नहीं है।
फिर भी आपके पास 5 ही मिनट है।
नहीं मुझे 5 मिनट में 2 मिनट बात करूंगा, क्योंकि मुझे शताब्दानी गणेश जी का सम्मान समझ में डर जो है भाटिया जी के शब्दों से लग रहा है जो भी कह के चले गए हैं। हम सभी लोगों ने 7 व्याख्यान सुने आदरणीय शताब्दानी गणेश जी के लिए। कबीर ने कहा है कि गुरु गोविंद देव खड़े काके लागू पाए, बलिहारी गुरु आपने जिन गोविंद देव मिलाए। मैं पीवी कृष्ण भट्ट जी के प्रति आभारी हूँ जिन्होंने इतने बड़े विद्वान, जिसके बारे में आदरणीय चंद्रकला पाटिया जी ने भी अभी कहा, हमसे मिलवाया। हमने लगातार उनके व्याख्यानों का जो है वो ध्यान से सुना है। ये बात सच है, जिन ग्रंथों की बात आपने की, हम लोगों ने अनुशीलन नहीं किया होगा, बहुतों ने नहीं किया हो, करने के बाद ही समझ भी नहीं सकते हैं। लेकिन फिर भी आपसे हमें प्रेरणा मिली है, और प्रेरणा लेकर के यदि एक व्यक्ति भी आगे आता है, कुछ व्यक्ति भी आगे आते हैं, तो उसमें निश्चित तौर पर उसका लाभ प्राप्त होगा। आपने अधिकारी, विषय, संबंध, प्रयोजन, ये 4 जो वर्ग हैं अध्ययन के, अध्यापन के, उससे बात को प्रारंभ करके संपूर्ण ज्ञान जो है वो मोक्ष की प्राप्ति के लिए होता है। वेद, उपवेद, उपनिषद, पुराण, महाभारत, रामायण, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता, काव्य प्रकाश, साहित्य धर्म, काव्य सूत्र, काम सूत्र, नाट्य शास्त्र, ज्योतिष, छंद, व्याकरण, आयुर्वेद, संगीत रत्नाकर, मनु, याज्ञवल्क्य, पाराशर, कालिदास, भवभूति, शूद्रक, क्षेमेंद्र, भास, बाणभट्ट, पाणिनि, पातंजल, वात्सायन, कौटिल्य, बहारमेर, बराहमेर, भर्तहरि से लेकर न्यूटन, आइंस्टाइन, सबको अपने व्याख्यानों में कवर किया है। वर्ण व्यवस्था, स्त्री पुरुष संबंध, विभिन्न प्रकार के विवाह, पुत्र, कर्मकांडों, परंपराओं, मानव मूल्यों की वैज्ञानिकता, व्यक्ति, परिवार व समाज के संस्कारों की वैज्ञानिकता, एक ग्रंथ से नहीं, एक भाषा से नहीं, कई ग्रंथों का अनुशीलन करना पड़ेगा। जब भी आप मनु के संदर्भ में बता रहे थे, इन्वॉल्वमेंट विथ डिटैचमेंट, सच्चिदानंद स्वरूप महत्वपूर्ण है, निद्रा महत्वपूर्ण है, जिससे हम लाइफ और स्पेस से, दोनों टाइम और स्पेस अलग जाते हैं। निद्रा से जीवन मुक्ति का मार्ग आपने हमको बताया है। मीमांसा सही ढंग से अध्ययन पद्धति हमारी हो सकती है, और दर्शन के बिना जो है वो कोई भी ज्ञान, कोई भी विज्ञान अधूरा है, और वेदांत के बिना हम समाज विज्ञान में हमारी गति नहीं आ सकती है। इसका हमें अनुभव करना है। पुस्तकों को पढ़ना ज़रूरी है, आपका ही मैं उद्धृत करूँगा, पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है, लेकिन पुस्तकों के पार जाना भी ज़रूरी है, जिसको आप ट्रांसीडेंट कहते हैं। पुस्तकों के द्वारा पढ़ कर के उसमें ही यदि आप चिपके रहेंगे, तब भी हम उसका अनुभव नहीं ले पाएंगे। आपने जो व्याख्यान दिए हैं, 7 व्याख्यान दिए हैं, हमारे पास में यूट्यूब चैनल में उनको संग्रहित कर लिया गया है। पूर्वा भट्ट, शीला जी की विद्यार्थिनी ने कुछ उनके लेख भी लिखना शुरू किया है। हाँ, शीला जी ने आपकी व्याख्यानों पर अपने विद्यार्थियों के साथ में बैठ कर के कुछ चर्चा सत्र भी प्रारंभ किया है। हम चाहेंगे कि ये जो आपके प्रकाशन जो ट्रांसक्राइब हो जाएंगे लेख, हम आपके पास में भेजेंगे, उनसे आप देख लेंगे, संशोधन कर लेंगे। उनको राष्ट्रीय समाज विज्ञान उनको प्रकाश में लाएगा। चर्चाओं में भी कुछ यदि शंकाएं होंगी तो पुनः हम आपकी शरण में आएंगे। शरण में आकर के आपसे ही सीखेंगे चीज़ों को। जैसे चंद्रा पाटिल जी कह रही थी, इच्छा होती है आपके चरणों में बैठ करके अध्ययन करें, आपके शिष्य बन जाएं। तो हम सभी लोग आपके शिष्य बन गए हैं। उपनिषदीय परंपरा से वर्चुअल मोड में ही, ये उपनिषद ही परंपरा है। आप व्यास गद्दी पर बैठे हुए हैं, हम सभी लोग जो है आपके पास बैठ करके, नज़दीक बैठ करके हमने ज्ञान प्राप्त किया है। और जो 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 हमारे पास यहाँ पर ज्ञान आएगा उसे हम भिन्न भिन्न विषयों में बांट करके देखेंगे। समाजशास्त्र में किस प्रकार से लाभ लिया जा सकता है, अर्थशास्त्र में किस प्रकार लाभ लिया जा सकता है, राजनीतिक शास्त्र में किस प्रकार लाभ लिया जाता है, ऐतिहासिक दृष्टि हमारी किस प्रकार बन सकती है, फिर उसको पाठ्यक्रम में हम किस प्रकार निर्माण कर सकते हैं, उसकी अध्ययन की पद्धति, अनुसंधान की पद्धतियां हम किस प्रकार से विकसित कर सकते हैं। ये हमारा आपका जो व्याख्यान हुए हैं उसके अनुक्रम में, फॉलोअप में हम इस प्रकार से इन चीज़ों को आगे ले जाएंगे। समय समय पर हम आपको कष्ट देते रहेंगे। आपने हम सबको कृतार्थ किया है, उपकृत किया है अपने अनुभव से, अपने ज्ञान से, अपनी वैखरी वाणी से। आप तपस्वी हैं, मनस्वी हैं। हम आपको शुभकामनाएं भी देते हैं, हम आपकी मंगल कामना भी देते हैं कि आप इसी प्रकार से भारतीय संस्कृति का, भारतीय धर्म का, भारतीय भूमि का न केवल भारत की धरा पर बल्कि पूरे विश्व में, पूरे ब्रह्मांड में आप जाज्वल्यमान नक्षत्र की भांति चमकते रहें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। वंदे मातरम।
बहुत सुंदर शब्दों में आपका उद्बोधन रहा। मैं
जी
जी
और जी एक बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ।
जी हाँ, जी हाँ, जी
आने के पहले
जी हाँ, कहिए।
गणेश जी की इस उपन्यास माला से हम लोग सब लोग लाभान्वित हुए हैं। कई चीजों के बारे में हमें कुछ नई दृष्टि, नया दर्शन भी हमें प्राप्त हुआ है। वर्तमान में जो सामाजिक विज्ञान के क्षेत्र में अनुसंधान हो रहा है हमारे यूनिवर्सिटीज में, बहुत ही एक गलत ढंग से वो प्रस्तुत किया जा रहा है। इसके कारण जो लोग यूनिवर्सिटी से निकलते हैं बहुत विकृत मनोधारणा लेकर वो बाहर निकलते हैं, अपनी ही संस्कृति, अपनी ही परंपरा, अपने ही ज्ञान परंपरा के बारे में। तो इसलिए ये जो एक प्रयास शुरू हुआ है, एक व्याख्यान माला करके यहीं पर इसको छोड़ देना हमारा उद्देश्य भी नहीं है, ये नहीं होना चाहिए। ये एक विचार मंथन लगातार चलते रहना चाहिए। तो इसको कैसे हम इस व्याख्यान को, इस प्रक्रिया को आगे बढ़ाते रहे और पूरे एक समाज विज्ञान के क्षेत्र में एक नई दिशा भारतीय दृष्टि से, भारतीय परिप्रेक्ष्य में कैसे हम दे सकते हैं, इसके बारे में चिंतन प्रक्रिया को हमें आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए। और इस प्रक्रिया में हम निरंतर श्री गणेश जी का मार्गदर्शन की अपेक्षा हम करते हैं। वो हमें इस प्रक्रिया में मार्गदर्शन करते रहे और यूनिवर्सिटीज में जिस प्रकार का अनुसंधान इन दिनों में हो रहा है उसको एक नया परिप्रेक्ष्य, नई दिशा देने के काम में राष्ट्रीय समाज विज्ञान परिषद के इस प्रयास में वो हमें मदद करे, मार्गदर्शन करे, ये मैं उनसे प्रार्थना करता हूँ।
बहुत बहुत सुंदर। आपकी अनुमति लेके अंत की तरफ बढ़ता हूँ। वो एक अंत नहीं है, एक नया शुरुआत होगी। मैं डॉक्टर शीला जी को कहता हूँ कि अपने धन्यवाद शब्दों को लेके आए। शीला जी।
Thank you, Amarjeet ji. Ganesh ji, I will begin with an apology, and Krishna Bhatt ji has very rightly put it forth. He set the tone. We can understand your anguish that the scholars, so-called, who are sitting here have not been able to deal with the subject according to your expectations. But sir, you cannot blame them enough. I'll tell you why. This is the course correction that Rashtriya Samaj Vigyan Parishad has taken up in all earnestness. The kind of education system that we have created, that system has not given them any kind of basic foundation or not inspired or motivated them to read anything like that. And because of that, they have been deprived of the basic knowledge of our own Indian knowledge system. And this is why you must be getting very frustrated. I can understand with the questions which come up, because you are you epitomize that entire knowledge system. And we are yet the beginners. Now, so on that line, I would like to also let you know for once that this Rashtriya Samaj Vigyan Parishad has been faced with a paradox. And the paradox is that on one hand, we all realize that we have a knowledge system which is we have reservoirs of knowledge system, which you have very highly pointed out, and there are concepts which have timeless value. So, and because of the geopolitical order, that system got somewhere subordinated, suppressed. So we have entered decolonization, but that decolonization may be a political score that we are settling, which is really good. It boosts our confidence, the nation's confidence, to know that we have such reservoirs of knowledge. But Rashtriya Samaj Vigyan Parishad does not stop there, sir. We want to indigenize knowledge. And that is where you are actually guiding us, that how can we utilize that ancient wisdom to create a bright present and a brighter future. And what you said, after all, knowledge is a continuously evolving system. So we have to adapt, we have to adopt, and something which we need to reject, we also need to reject, and we have to remodel. So this is where we require your guidance more than ever. And believe me, next time when we meet you, most of our scholars would definitely have found time to sit and go through the literature and come up with, if not actual intelligence, at least a pretension of intelligence somewhere where it can satisfy you. Now to go ahead with what we are, I cannot thank you enough.
It's my privilege. It's my privilege.
No, sir. Chandrakala Padia ma'am said she's mesmerized, and I can tell you that we are awestruck. We are awestruck by the magnitude of your and depth of your knowledge, and you have actually experienced that knowledge. And I can tell you that you are divinely blessed, and definitely we cannot in any way rival the kind of knowledge that you have. But we are grateful to you, sir, for all the kind of wisdom that you have tried to impart to us, and the analogies that you draw, and the kind of comparisons that you make it so much more comprehensible. And I can tell you that we are little ants who are trying to make our anthills. We will not be the serpents who come into the anthills. I can promise you that we will try very hard for that. And I should begin by saying that we are grateful. We cannot express our indebtedness to Professor Krishna Bhattji, because he's the one who's not only a nationalist, but he's a visionary. If he could visualize an organization like this, and with the commitment and passion that he's going ahead, believe me, he's doing a regular hand-holding for all of us, and every step he has been monitoring how we have to go ahead. Had it not been for him, we would not have had the divine blessing of even being initiated to your knowledge system. And secondly, I must tell you that Rajkumar Bhatia ji, you must have seen, he's a very tight-lipped person, speaks very little, but his guidance has been actually a very motivating force. He's a man of few words, but he actually, with all good intention, he has been perpetuating and propelling this organization. I cannot thank you enough, Bhatia ji, for all the kind of support. And Professor A.D.N. Bajpai, you can see, one of the scholars who is so well versed in Sanskrit and Hindi and English. So he at least saves us from all the kind of allegations that would be leveled against us. So we are propelling ahead under his guidance. And Amarjeev ji has been our steward, our technical steward, who has not only provided the technical stewardship, but has been the anchor for all the programs. Had it not been for him, probably we wouldn't have been able to do what we have done. Thank you so much, Amarjeev ji. And Professor Shri Prakash Mani Tripathi could not join us today because unfortunately his elder brother has been hospitalized because of coronavirus infection. So he has conveyed his gratitude. He rang me up in between. And we have Professor Jay Prasad, Professor Dr. Sudhir Kumar Babu, and Sanjay Satyarthi ji, Deepti Kumari, all our executive members, Govind Sharma ji, our treasurer, sir, all of them have been contributing, and Chandrakala Padia ma'am again is one pillar of our Rashtriya Samaj Vigyan Parishad, whom we all resort to whenever we need anything else. So we will someday probably come to you, Ganesh ji, and maybe we will harass you a little more for the kind of knowledge we need. But let me tell you, I'm going to use your own phrase. We fall inadequate for words, because you said when Sita, Ram saw Sita, when Sita saw Ram or his, she could not express.
gira nanavani.
So what we feel in our heart, we cannot express through our mouth and lips and tongue. So words fall short, sir. But let me tell you that whatever we have heard from you is still, so it has just initiated us into that process of learning. And I'm sure that if you give us more time later on and give us the right kind of guidance, you will not be unhappy. You will be more than satisfied, probably, because all these scholars who have been coming every day to listen, every week to listen to you, they are also equally gaining knowledge from you. And that knowledge will then percolate to the other students in the country. Maybe that disjunct that we have witnessed so far, that disjunct will be done away with, and we will be able to carve a new future. Thank you for your humility, patience, and your knowledge. We cannot express enough. Thank you so much. It's a small word, but we want to convey volume, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have so many helping hands, so we are also having unseen hands.
Yeah,
we should
also
thank
the
them.
participants. Had it
Yes,
not been for the
yes.
participants,
But
this would
So
have
it
been
would not have been
And
possible at all.
today, the persons who asked questions today also made the
Very
entire
important.
session
Yes.
very live.
Thank you so much.
So thank you,
मैं
Amardeep ji. भाई साहब नमस्कार.
कार्यक्रम की समाप्ति की तरफ बढ़ता हूँ
भाई साहब
और
नमस्कार.
अनुमति लेता हूँ इस कार्यक्रम को वाइंड अप करने
शीला
का.
जी नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
खूब खूब धन्यवाद.
पुनर्मिलामा.
संजय जी
रिसर्च की
नमस्कार.
दिशा और मेथोडोलॉजी
मनीषी
दोनों बदल
नमस्कार.
जाएगी अब.
दीप्ति.
मेरा सबों को प्रणाम और एक सादर आग्रह
नमस्कार.
है कि बिहार झारखंड अध्याय की शुरुआत होगी 18 सबों से सर विनम्र आग्रह है कि 18 तारीख को जो बिहार झारखंड
शुभकामनाएं, बधाई
हो रही है.
एक मिनट सुनिए. बोलिए.
सर सबों से आग्रह है कि 18 अक्टूबर को 3 बजे सेकेंड हाफ में प्रोफेसर रंजीत कुमार वर्मा जी हमारे बिहार झारखंड जो अध्याय की शुरुआत हो रही है उसमें अपना व्याख्यान देंगे. सबों से उपस्थिति की आकांक्षी भी हूँ और सबों से निवेदन करती हूँ कि अपने जानने और परिचितों को और प्रेषित भी